Hey guys, this is your fiery friend the Infernoman here, and if you're into games, you're right where you need to be. But before we get into it, if you like the content that I put out there, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit me up with a like, or even better, subscribe to me. It really shows that people do care about my content. Now, if you have questions, comments, stuff you'd like to see played or discussed, you can @me on Twitter or chat directly with me as I stream 2 to 3 times a week on Twitch. A visual link for those are up on the screen right now, and I will have direct links in the details below. And for today's video, we're going to be going over Historic Anthology 4. I was, of course, recording other videos, so that's why I'm barely getting to this now on Monday. So let's go ahead and read the article real quick. And the article reads, are you a fan of MTG Arena and feel slightly jealous of our time-smiled remastered previews? Yes, I am, but I'm going to leave my thoughts on that a little bit later. Well, pack your bags for a trip to MTG Arena. Historic lovers, your time has come. Historic Anthology 5 adds 25 cards to the MTG Arena, adding decks you already know and unlocking exciting new strategies. Beginning March 11th, you can purchase the complete Historic Anthology 4 in MTG Arena in-game store and contains a playset, 4 copies, of every new card. You may also use wildcards to craft these new cards individually and using a wildcard of the appropriate rarity. Historic format features all set currently available in MTG Arena, plus additional Historic Anthology cards like these. So as you can see right here, the bundle of course is the same as the other ones, which was 4,000 gems or 25,000 gold. The bundle is going to be available, of course, as I just said, March 11th to June 10th. So you got a bit of a time frame. Players will still be able to craft these cards using wildcards of the appropriate rarity after the date, of course. Legality, of course, for this is Historic Anthology, so obviously this means for the historic format. Now, you know how to acquire these in Historic Anthology 4. Let's get to the good stuff, the cards itself. Alright, so just before we get started on talking about every single card, I'm just going to fire them off real quick at you, giving me my yay, nay, initial reactions, and yeah, then we'll just wrap it up real quick. Alright, in the order that they come in, Triumphant Reckoning is 9 mana for a sorcery that says return all artifact, enchantment, and planeswalker cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's too expensive. I'm gonna be honest, unless if we were playing Brawl, maybe this is something, but there's other white cards you probably want in your deck. Not even as a sideboard option. It's just too expensive and it's too slow. Alright, next. Declaration in Stone. 2 mana sorcery speed. Exile target creature and all other creatures its controller controls with the same name as the creature. That player investigates for each non-token creature exiled this way. Mostly a removal card for token decks, but I otherwise don't see much of this getting played. Again, same problem with Triumphant Reckoning. There's just other cards you would rather put in white. The Raven Inspector. 1 mana, 1/2 human soldier. When the Inspector enters the battlefield, investigate. Awesome 1-drop. Get a full play set of them. If nothing else, they go in multiple decks. It's great in the early, mid, and late because of that clue token. Think twice. 2 mana, instant speed, draw a card. You could flash it back for 3 mana. The closest comparison to this is going to be the Radical Idea. Just, again, it's going to be up to personal preference if you want to use this or not. Radical Idea does have its advantage, because sometimes you do want to purposely discard a card to the graveyard, maybe for recursion. Otherwise, Think Twice is not bad. They're both going to compete for the same slot, though. Spider Spawning. 5 mana, sorcery speed. Create 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach for each creature card in your graveyard. You could flash it back for 7 mana. It is kind of expensive though. This is mostly going to be used to rebuild your board in case it gets blown up by a Wrath. Adorned Pouncer. 2 mana, 1/1 cat. Double strike, and you can eternalize it for 5 mana. Not much I really want to say, except I guess there's a reason why this was excluded from the Amonkhet Remastered set. Either way, it's an okay card. I don't know how many people are going to try to utilize it. The Eternalized cost is interesting to bring it back with Double Strike, but it's, again, going to be a little on the expensive side. Iceberg Crix. Did I spell that right? I don't know, sorry. Anyway, a 2 mana 0/4 Snow Crab. That sounds tasty. Whenever another snow permanent enters a battlefield under your control, you may have target player mill 2 cards. Some people are going to probably try to make a mono blue crab mill deck now with this card, but remember the key thing with this card is you may have target player mill, so you can mill yourself if you want to try to pull off some interesting shenanigans with this. I can think of an alternate besides milling your opponent. You could use this maybe in an arc like Phoenix deck. Myriad Lage's Slumber. 2 mana, legendary snow enchantment. When the Lage's Slumber or another snow permanent enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more snow permanents, you sacrifice the Slumber. If you do, you can create Myriad Lage, a legendary 20/20 black avatar creature token with flying and indestructible. So I can see some kind of meme shenanigans where people are going to try to maybe ramp into this, but just keep in mind again, just because it has indestructible does not mean it can't get exiled. Sword of Body of Mind, 3 mana, artifact, equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from green and from blue. When equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you create a 2/2 green wolf creature token and that player mills 10 cards. You equip it for 2. And not the best of the sword cycle, but it's still not bad. I don't know what deck would want to use this though. It's going to be an interesting if some people try to make, again, some kind of mill option with this. We'll have to wait and see. This is going to be, I would put in the maybe pile. Goblin Gavalier, 1 mana, 1/1 Goblin Warrior with Trample. The Gavalier gets +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it. And I want to say this might be fun for a janky, I don't know, Hammer Time deck, but me personally, I'm still trying to work on that myself with Boros colors. Bone Splitter, 1 mana, equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, equip it for 1. Pass. Next. Torment of Scarabs, 4 mana, enchantment aura curse. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, that player loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. Ooh, I actually am thinking already of a curse deck that I would like to put together now. Flameblade Adept, 1 mana, 1/2 Jackal Warrior with Menace. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, Flameblade Adept gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Now we're talking. This may not seem like anything special, but remember that the Ikoria series gave us the oh-so-infamous cycling deck that is still pretty good currently in Standard, but now Historic actually has a couple more enablers to give you payoffs for cycling. I would definitely say this is something to consider. Maybe I'm thinking a little too highly of this card, but I would like to see cycling become a deck in the Historic format. Just be aware, though, of graveyard shenanigans. Faith of the Devoted, for 3 mana, enchantment. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Again, you see with the Flameblade Adept, it kind of gives you a cycling payoff. The only downside is the 3 mana means it doesn't work with having Loris. So you're going to have to make a decision here. Do you want to have the enchantment or do you want to have Loris? On the other hand, Loris is not an essential for the cycling deck, but it helps kind of recur certain things if you do get stuck. So something to consider at least. Liz Alana Huntmaster, 4 mana, 3/3 Elf Warrior. Whenever you cast an elf spell, you may create a 1/1 green Elf Warrior creature token. For 4 mana, I mean, this is definitely doable with the elf decks that are running around, but I think right now the problem is elves now have enough pieces where I don't think adding more like this is going to help them. They need more efficient pieces. Abomination of Llanowar, 3 mana, legendary creature elf horror. Vigilance and Menace. The Abomination's power and toughness are equal to the number of elves you control plus the number of elf cards in your graveyard. The biggest issue right now is elves now has enough functional pieces where I don't know if these are going to be essential to make them better, but I can at least see these in maybe a budget elf deck. Speaking of which, yes, I am still working on that. Inspiring Sanctuary, 3 mana, artifact. Non-artifact spells you cast have improvise. And again, this is going to be going in very niche decks. I don't think anybody's going to use it initially. It's going to be one of those cards where people are going to have to figure out the right deck before it gets used. Cold Steel Heart, 2 mana, snow artifact. Cold Steel Heart enters the battlefield tapped. As Cold Steel Heart enters the battlefield, choose a color. Add 1 mana of the chosen color. This is a slow fair version of the Arkham's Astrolabe that has been currently banned in several formats. I don't see this being used that much, maybe in certain decks, but it's kind of the same problem as the Sanctuary. It's going to take time before people figure out where this card fits. Blink Moth Nexus. Aid land. Tap it to add 1 colorless, or you may pay 1, and the Nexus becomes a 1/1 Blink Moth artifact creature with flying until end of turn. It's still a land. You can also pay 1 and tap it. Target Blink Moth creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Ooh, now this is what we're talking about. Remember how I mentioned earlier about the 1 mana cards in my previous video? Oh yeah. This, I think, would help out with, if we only got Memnite, into making an artifact aggro deck. I do really like this card. I know it's not going to be Inkmoth Nexus. I know that was the card I'm sure many other people would have wanted, but I think this is a fair addition. Someday, though, we will get to that Inkmoth Nexus, and then we will really have a true affinity deck in Historic. Someday, everyone. You just gotta believe. Hamza, Guardian of Arashin. For 6 mana, a 5/5 Elephant Warrior legendary creature. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. And, I mean, it sounds enticing. I guess I gotta wait and see if the green-white counters deck is strong enough where they want to utilize this. It's not bad, but I would probably more likely see this in a brawl deck. So we'll have to wait and see on this one. This is kind of a okay. Might be fun. Emmet Eternal, 3 mana, 5/5. Zombie Crocodile Demon. That's actually a pretty cool typing. With a 3/2 Afflict. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a -1/-1 counter on the Eternal. Whenever the Eternal deals combat damage to a player, remove all the -1/-1 counters on it. So the problem I see with this is this would have been great a couple of cycles ago in the format, but the problem now is we've got a lot of good 3-drops in this slot. So it's competing for a spot that it's already been filled by better cards. Okay, we're almost done. Sawtusk Demolisher, 6 mana for a 6/6 beast with trample. It also has mutate for 4. Whenever this creature mutates, destroy target non-creature permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. I don't know. This is okay. I don't know where I would put this though. The problem is mutate isn't really that poppin' right now, but we'll have to wait and see. Harmless Offering. For 3 mana, sorcery. Target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. Oh, I have to say it. Oh, look at that cute little kitty cat. Meow. Okay, let's be real. Everyone's going to try to meme this with Demonic Pact. That's been the combo that's been used in the past, so expect that now to come to Historic. I even myself will probably try to make this work in a budget deck, or at least some kind of jank pile. We'll have to wait and see on this one. Last but not least, Collected Conjuring. 4 mana, sorcery speed. Exile the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast up to 2 sorcery spells with a mana value 3 or less from among them without paying their mana cost. Put the exile cards not cast this way onto the bottom of your library in a random order. we could have gotten something better than this. Again, this is not a bad card, but the problem is sorcery speed and 4 mana in the current state of Historic means that you could be casting something better for that. Also, not to mention, it would be much better if the spells were at least instant or sorcery, but 2 sorceries means you're going to have to craft your deck a very specific way to make the Conjuring actually work. Wait, that was only 24 cards. Well, what was the last card? Oh, Death Shadow, everyone. All right then. Death Shadow, a 1 mana 13/13 avatar. Death Shadow gets -X/-X, whereas X is your life total. Okay, well, I guess now people are going to try to make Grixis Death Shadow a thing in the Historic format. Well, I don't even know where to begin talking about this card. It is a powerful card, indeed, if you know how to use it correctly. I think this card alone might actually constitute its own video, which I might want to make. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to talk about this and what it means for Historic. As for my final thoughts on Historic Anthology 4, let's actually rephrase that first line that we mentioned from the article at the start of the video, which was, are you a fan of MTG Arena and feel slightly jealous of our Time Spiraled Remastered previews? Well, here's the thing, Wizards. You could have actually added in as a surprise Time Spiraled as an anthology for Historic Anthology 4 instead of doing this. That's not to say that the cards that we were given were bad. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, I'm honestly personally excited for Blink Moth Nexus shenanigans. I'm also happy to utilize cards like Thraben Inspector, but then we got cards in here like Bone Splitter. I don't understand why. We got Goblin Cavalier. Sure, I guess I can use that for maybe, I don't know, the Hammer Time deck. But, I mean, it wasn't okay. Obviously, cards like Harmless Offering are cute meme cards, but this honestly should have been, I felt, a Time Spiraled anthology. If nothing else, they could have found a way to make this properly balanced. I do understand that some of the Time Spiraled remastered cards would be considered too powerful for the Historic format, but the bonus that we have from Historic is, as a reminder, Wizards has the power and ability to suspend, which is a temp ban of a card, anytime they want if it is deemed too troublesome for the format, and then can evaluate the card at a later time to see if they want to permanently ban it or to reintroduce it into the format. At least that's the way I perceive that Time Spiral Remastered could have been implemented as an actual anthology. But otherwise, what do you guys think? Do you think Historic Anthology 4 is a great one? Do you think it's better or worse than the other previous ones that came out for the historic format? Do you think this should have been the Time Spiral Remastered anthology? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you guys. But aside from that, thanks again for watching, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe if I helped you out, you learned something, or at least entertained you. And remember that no matter what you do play in the game of life, always be sure to burn bright. Later.